In Days of Great Peace by Mouni Sadhu. Chapter 26. Apart from the Mind. Around the ashram's temple is a broad terrace of concrete and stone. After 9 p.m., life in the big compound is almost still, and the temple itself is darkened. Maharshi sleeps in the hall, which is separated from the temple proper by a massive gate of iron grid, artistically fashioned in Indian style. Besides the master, there are always 1 or 2 attendants who never leave him and are ready to give any service required. This is most necessary now that his health is so precarious. Some nights, when the moon sheds its light over the silent paths, I come here from my room and sit quietly on the clean-swept terrace. Still figures of some native country visitors recline asleep on the sandy area before the dining hall, and the ashram's pool lies peacefully before me. I find the spot appropriate for meditation. Perhaps the awareness of the master's presence only a dozen yards away adds solemnity to my thoughts. Among many things I learned at his feet, there is one of overwhelming importance, which I wish to enlarge on here. 4 years ago, when I read Paul Brunton's account of an ecstatic state of consciousness which he experienced in the presence of the great Rishi, describing it as being apart from the thinking mind, it was rather an enigma to me. How could one be apart and independent of his own mentality? Now I have proved it possible by experience. It was said earlier that after my arrival at the ashram, I stopped all my previous exercises. This was done because I felt with utter certainty that the precious time spent here with my master would be more wisely used. Exercises could be performed later if need be, but here and now I must take the opportunity of learning what might otherwise be impossible. After the fateful experience described in chapter 23, I realized that I could be separated from my thinking apparatus and that my consciousness or awareness of being was far from being obliterated. Life flowed on without endurance. There's a typo here. I'm trying to figure out what the word is. Oh, I see what it is. Okay. Life flowed on without hindrance, though the mind was without thought. I now knew that the I current is independent of thought, and yet every process of thought is produced from it. This is one of the highest initiations through which one passes when one is in the presence of the Master. Years ago, after long, tedious instruction that the mind must be subdued before any ray of light can reach one, I began my endless exercises in that direction, with feelings of pain and uncertainty. Now I see why. The region beyond the mind was, for me at that time, an unexplored land, an emptiness. Then I was completely devoid of this self-conscious power, the awareness of which was born with the mysterious help of Maharshi. The former method of using the mind was like the dangerous situation of a man in charge of an electric motor which is running hot and who does not know where to find the switch to stop it. Can the average man stop his thinking machine when he wishes? Does a man use a machine which he is unable to control? What is humanity doing? The mind, that most subtle and essential power which we have before we discover our true self, remains uncontrolled, and its switch unknown. It leads us where it will, often down blind alleys and bypaths. But our own true self knows all. The first rays of its light gave me control of that mysterious switch. Now doubt and uncertainty have gone. Now my eyes are open and I see the silvery water of the ashram's pool, while above white clouds drift across the sky, with the moon rising between them. My outer ears hear the muffled cries of far-off owls, but all this is outside my consciousness. I am aware that my physical self is in contact with the outer world, but within, the true I reigns in stillness. I would not accept all the wealth of the universe for this stillness. I know that it is the foundation which will not be lost when the world of the senses crumbles. This stillness has no desires. It is independent of all. When it takes the foreground of my consciousness, all that I once thought of as myself vanishes. One cannot see it for the simple reason that in that state, nothing but it exists. The words diving and merging, often used in attempting to describe this state, are unsuitable, for they suggest something separate and an entering into something unknown. The experience itself is quite different. One then is this stillness and nothing else. One is then stripped of all veils and only the essence remains. A strange condition begins to develop in me. I look on the Mouni Sadhu as an object, and this outer shell is not by any means the most important. He sits and breathes, and blood circulates in his veins. I see many thoughts around his mind, like the swarm of bees trying to enter their hive. But the stillness, the silence, forbids invasion. I know that the next stage of consciousness will bring me to the vanishing of this visible world. Some months ago, this vanishing invariably brought me a gap in the awareness of the life flowing in me. But now it is different. I know that I cannot lose the consciousness of this I current in me anymore. Everything can and will pass, but I am, I nameless, formless, the only onlooker. I am, I exist. Persistence in this state is effortless, but strangely enough, I know that for my visible counterpart, there is great effort, and most of all for the mind-brain. I feel that it is literally straining under the vibratory power of these new and heretofore unknown currents of consciousness. Now I realize why I cannot remain forever in them. My outer form, and especially the brain, cannot yet bear it. So I must return from this realm of silence, but aware of it, though dim and imperfect, still remains through that return. The awareness of this current is the power which makes it possible for these experiences beyond the mind to be transmitted and expressed on paper. The fact is hard to convey, but the knowledge that the mind is not me is the very source of this ability. Put simply, if I can order my involuntary thinking to stop and can see the accomplished fact, then he who gives the order is me. The equation is solved. The mysterious unknown quantity X is found. During the following nights, I tried to find myself while in the state of physical sleep. As I presumed, it was far more difficult than when I attempted it while awake, for then I could control the mind as independent of the physical body and brain. In sleep, my physical counterpart is in a different condition which has not yet been brought under discipline. At the time, I could not find any hint as to how the thing was to be accomplished, but sometimes on awakening, I remember that I must have had a certain kind of awareness. While asleep, intuition, the soundless voice, whispers that the solution will come in due course, so there is no need to hasten it prematurely. The presence of the Master is now felt even when I cannot see him, when I am away from the hall. How can this be? The process of seeing while the mind is still conveys to me the truth, which I see as if in a flash of light. The Master is not the body, which I see every day on the couch in the temple. He is the stillness, the silence itself, in which I realize myself. This knowledge immediately brings me peace, for it is not knowledge of the mind. It is truth itself. A description of truth cannot help us. It must be lived and experienced. That is why I lost all interest in books written written by those who themselves have not experienced truth and have only built theories based on mental conceptions. To me, they are lifeless and useless. Truth is life. They are never separated. It is clear to me that where there is no life, there cannot be truth. So I must say goodbye to my old companions, books, for they cannot help me anymore. A few which contain real experience are always in my memory. They confirm what I have now experienced, and in gratitude to them, I quote from them in my diary. They helped me at appropriate times, and they may do the same for the reader. At about midnight, I return to my room. An Indian cat is waiting for me on the dark paths of the ashram's compound. I regularly give her food, mostly rice and milk, and I stroke her short, white, gray fur. Apparently, I'm the only one to whom this half-wild little animal allows such intimacy. She runs away from others. In gratitude, she carefully inspects my room and devours the unwelcome red spiders which often pay their respects to me at night. So we are good friends.